Okay. Today we're hearing from Dennis Fontenot, the Division Technical and BIM Manager from CMC, and Robbie Hall, who is the CRSI BIM Committee Chair, and more information about them will be in the presentation.
Thank you, guys. So the rebar component of this conversation is so important, it's going to take two of us today. So yeah, as Mike mentioned, I'm Robbie Hall. I'm with HRC, head of the Reinforcement Corporation. With me, I have a true expert from our committee and BIM task group, Dennis Fontenot. So I'll keep my portion of this very brief and turn it over to Dennis as quickly as I can. So Dennis has been a long-time member of the industry, going on 38 years. As Mike mentioned, he is the current technical and BIM manager for Commercial Metals Company Central Division. A lot of involvement in detailing. I believe when he started it was still on paper with pencil, and he has seen the entire progression all the way to 3D modeling and BIM as we know it today. So if there's a guy that has seen the changes, it is certainly Dennis. Been a huge part of the CRSI committee. He's a very active member, founding member, and active member of our BIM task group as well. And I'm excited to see what he has to share with everyone today. As far as myself, I started as a detailer as well. I've been in the business about 22 years, worked in rebar fabrication, namely on the detailing side for 17 of that, the last 5 with HRC, who's a manufacturer of couplers and headed our products for reinforcing steel. As Mike mentioned, I'm the current detailing committee chairman for CRSI. And try to fill my spare time with other committees as well at ACI, ASCE, ASCM, and a number of others at CRSI and our counterparts to the north in Canada, RSIC. Most of that involvement, of course, focused on reinforcing bar. So as far as a quick introduction to the CRSI Reinforcing Bar Detailing Committee, like ACI, we have a number of committees focused on specialized technical areas. The detailing committee is focused on detailing and estimating practices. We maintain a number of publications related to those two aspects. Some are training-based, some are standards-based. And outside of that general responsibility, we also serve as a liaison with ACI Committee 131 to make sure that the two committees representing both the concrete and reinforcement sides of our industry are well coordinated and working in concert together. To that point, the detailing committee formed a BIM task group in 2015 that currently represents 18 CRSI member companies. And those companies cover software vendors, contractors, and companies in the business of rebar detailing, rebar fabrication, rebar placement, and accessory manufacturers as well. As I mentioned, we have a large overlap with ACI 131, and so a number of our BIM task group members participate with ACI 131 and are very active there. And the BIM task group at CRSI published its first tech note in 2021 as an introduction to BIM. Okay, and we actually have copies on the table in the back by the water cooler if you'd like one. So that was our first foray into a publication related to BIM or 3D modeling as it relates specifically to steel reinforced concrete and trying to capture the reinforcing bar detailing aspect of this process. Since then, this committee's been very active. We meet every other week and have been doing so for quite a few years. And so we'll maintain the scope as far as training and standards for reinforcing bar detailing, and then also maintain an improved focus on BIM as it relates to rebar detailing and ties into everything that we're concerned about. And so again, that relationship between CRSI BIM Task Group and ACI 131 Committee will remain intact. And so one of the local or latest initiatives, okay, so one of the latest BIM Task Group initiatives we're working on is a series of educational brochures. One to just cover the general benefits of BIM, but then one focused on every audience or every stakeholder in the process to really dive into the details there of how this process, again with a rebar detailing and fabrication focus, can benefit them. So Dennis will talk about those brochures here momentarily. Secondly, there are a number of constructability and communication initiatives. I know that's true for both the environment here at ACI, same is true for CRSI. And so BIM is, of course, a big part of that, but we're working on constructability and communication improvements to address construction stakeholder issues. via focus groups and participants with expertise in all aspects of this. And no doubt that will continue to influence the work we're doing at the BIM task group as well as the other technical committees of CRSI. So with that, I'll get out of the way. I'll turn it over to Dennis. He'll run through the brochures and share some information on the workflow and the changes that we're seeing and how that benefits the rebar detailing process.
So today, working with 2D, this is our process. When we get drawings from engineers, we estimate, right? We go through the whole bid cycle, re-estimate. We'll start the detailing once we're awarded the job. We'll get our RFIs in, revise our drawings, resubmit our drawings, get it approved, we'll create bar lists, and then it's off to the shop. It's fabricated, shipped, and placed in stock. So this process here is all flowed through PDFs, right? There's no model. So what we want to do is get out of this process, this fragmented linear process, and start moving into more collaborative. By truly working with a model, where we have a shared model, and everybody's communicating back to the model. You have your design engineer, and then your general contractor already starting to develop a plan before we get it. We get the model, we see the sequence, we talk about LODs, and there's a place for our LOD, and we want it no earlier than a 350 because there won't be enough information from a detailer fabricator standpoint. So I wanted to show y'all some of the projects we get. I'm only going to show one. And this is a model of a tank, an aquarium tank, right? Can you detail the rebar in 2D? We've got the model for it. Here's the rebar, right? And we can detail rebar in a model faster than we can from a 2D drawing. And we also can find constructability issues very quickly. We can find fabrication issues. And, this also helps us whenever we're training detailers, especially the younger generation. They can visualize a lot quicker. Congestion. Is the bar right? Is it in the right place? Is it burning the concrete? Right? It doesn't have the proper clearance. So here's the drawings that we still generate from a model. So we're generating 2D drawings to go out to the field for the guys to place the bars. At the top, you can see bar marks on some of the bars. Those bars are actually fabricated to fit. And then you also see build cut in as required. Well, you can't fabricate some of the bars, right? We can get it cut to the length that we know in the model it's going to fit. But if they drape it and they bend it in place, it's going to work. You can probably put a 90-degree hook or 180 on it. It's going to fit where it needs to be. So this is another little section. Same thing, pointing out where the bars go. The places also have a model to look at the rebar, right? They can move the model around on an iPad, their laptop, whatever. There's the bars right there. Just imagine that. And every one of these bars are coated, so it's epoxy coated. And we talked about exporting out all the data related to the rebar. And when we model this, and with our EM 15, it's already been submitted, I can export out all this data about this rebar so that the engineer, as I see this rebar, the engineer gets it, brings it into his model, and he can look at all the properties, or he can look at it through Sleevery or a BIM viewer and look at the properties of the rebar. He'll see the grade, the coating, the size, the shape, how many pieces, the length, all that information transferred from my detailing software through an IFC to the engineer. There's another nice little view of that mess of rebar. So, what are some of the benefits of using a model? One, we can estimate from it, right? We can get construction drawings from it. We can get our logistics, make-ready planning, talking about the scheduling, formwork, safety, model-based layout, which has already been brought up, rebar detailing, rebar placing, and also your core management and concrete lighting. There's a lot more that a model can provide. And there's general contractors out there that are digging into, what are the benefits? Can we put the cost of the rebar? Can we put the cost of the labor? When it was placed? What was the testing result for the concrete? What was the temperature of that day when they poured the concrete? All this can go into this model and transfer over to the owner. So what we've been doing, Robbie has talked about, with our task group, we have been putting together a brochure, and it's just more of an educational to help the community, the industry, students, young engineers, old engineers, everything about them and what it's used for. And also we have inserts in this brochure that are segregated by discipline or who's going to benefit from it. And we focus in on, like this one's for the owners and developers. This one's for the structural engineers and architects. So the contractors. Anybody have an iPhone? Take your iPhone and hit that QR code, and you'll see CRSI come up on it, and hit it. This sequence, and if you don't have an iPhone, I also provided, I'll wait to see this guy get the last one. I also provided it on a slide here so that you can see the sequence. So what I've done on a project downtown Austin with a general contractor, Austin Commercial, on a high-rise, they gave me their schedule. I detailed the rebar in the model. I assigned based off of their schedule when the rebar is going to be placed and poured, and assign a time frame for each beam. How much time would it take to place a beam, or a joist, or a slab, or a column? Now, it's going a lot faster than what they probably couldn't place it this fast. But what this does is gives us the ability, if we have a structure and there's a sequence of how the rebar really needs to be placed and what direction it has to be placed, so that the congestion, and also stacking them up doesn't burn the concrete. This definitely helps the places in the field to have some sort of video of as an area of a project how to place the rebar properly, in the right direction, what direction is laid over the other direction, right? So you wanted all your north-south bars to be placed first, you put in your sequence, and show them place the next one. They don't know that, could be placed wrong, and engineers and design intent may be off. You may have a failure. So, get back into the benefits. So, for rebar detailers and project managers, down here on bottom, you can see some details. Well, we can take a BIM model and we can pull pieces out that we want to really communicate to the general contractor, or maybe to the engineer, that what they've designed is not going to work. All right? It's not going to work from a fabrication standpoint. It's not going to work from a constructability standpoint. And this is from a bridge in California, Gerald Edison Bridge, column where the cables go through, and we had to explain to them the design will not work. And it helped. We had an answer probably within 24 hours how to fix it. There's that section right there. But also going into the fabricators, right? So fabrication and suppliers, what's the benefit of having a BIM model? We can look at the type of fabrication that's inside it. Maybe we need to charge more, right? And then your places, like we talked about. You know, how is the steel placed? Orientation, what goes down first? So that's what we're working on, and like I said, this tech note, I put copies back there, but the brochures, we haven't got it approved, and 2 weeks we're meeting in Chicago at CRSI fall meeting, and we'll get that through. And this next QR code here, if you scan it, it's going to take you to where those brochures are going to be. And CRSI, you can create you a little account. It doesn't cost you anything. And when those brochures come live in 2 weeks, they'll be there for you. So you can download them. They're PDFs. They're free. It doesn't cost you anything. But that's all we have.